I'm here with another Skin Geek Sunday from Alchemy Skin. Today we're talking about comedogenicity. Not a small word, but has a really simple definition. Essentially, it refers to whether or not a skincare product is likely to cause congestion in your skin or to clog pores. So comedones is what we use in the skincare industry, but what a comedone is to the average layperson is a whitehead or a blackhead. Whiteheads are closed comedones, meaning that there's no oxygen getting to the congestion that has formed in the skin, so it stays white or clear in the skin. There's a physical texture or bump, but there doesn't appear to be anything visually in it. Whereas a blackhead is what we would call an open comedone, no different than cutting an apple or an avocado in half and having it turn brown. The congestion in your skin is it's oxidizing, it's turning brown because of access to oxygen. So the pore is open to the environment and the congestion that is in the pore is starting to turn brown or colored. For some people, some of my fair skinned clients, they look a little bit more like a freckle. They're kind of reddish. They don't even really get to that kind of black brown state. For my darker skin type, they definitely turn more black or brown. In my skin, you can see them a lot more. I also have white or closed comedones, which means that the skin is clogged with something, but there's a little patch of skin over it, so the oxygen isn't getting in there and turning it brown. So I say all of that to say that comedogenicity is a measure of whether or not an ingredient is actually going to cause congestion in the skin. And for people who are dealing with acne or any sort of skin congestion that's out of control, that is one of the terms that they know very well. You'll also see it in a lot of marketing and packaging where it says like non-comedogenic on the label. That essentially means it doesn't clog pores. So how does comedogenicity work? How is it measured? A lot of the science is very old. There was a report from a dermatologist, the founder of Retin-A, who came out with this comedogenicity rating back in 1989, all of which were tested on rabbits' ears. They weren't tested on human skin, and rabbits' ears are more susceptible to congestion than human skin is. The other thing is that the products were tested in their pure form, meaning if you were testing coconut oil, you would put 100% coconut oil on the ear versus coconut oil in a mixture or formulation. Obviously, somebody couldn't test every mixture or formulation out there, but the reason I use coconut oil is because if you look up the comedogenicity rating, it's on a scale from 0 to 5, 0 meaning it's not clogging your pores or less likely to, 5 meaning it is likely to clog your pores. Coconut oil sits at like a 4 or a 5. So generally speaking, not something you would want to use straight on your skin. However, if you look at medium chain triglycerides oil, which is a derivative of coconut oil, that sits in the comedogenicity rating scale of a 2. So when I say that, the reason I say that is because every product, every ingredient is essentially a chemical concoction of different ingredients in the same bottle, right? That's what we have the ingredient listing for. In the industry, we call that a deck or an ingredient deck. What it is essentially a declaration of ingredients managed by a body that's called the International Nomenclature of Cosmetic Ingredients. So international agreement on the nomenclature or naming of cosmetic ingredients within a formulation. So whether the bottle or product was made in Spain or France or Korea or America, the label that goes on, the name that they use for the product has to be the same across all international product labels. So that gives us our INCI, and the INCI deck will declare everything that's in it. Keep in mind, if the product is made in different locations, they don't have the same rules. But here in America, if a product is made in the US or manufactured in somewhere else and sold in the United States, we require that international nomenclature declaration or the ingredient deck to be in order of the first ingredient is the highest percentage of ingredient in that particular formulation, and then the last ingredient is the lowest. So there's a couple of things that we can use for this ingredient deck when it comes to understanding comedogenicity. There are also, for example, ingredients like dimethicone, which is a form of silicone. It makes the products feel really silky, but it is considered an occlusive product. On the comedogenicity scale, it rates at like a 1, meaning it shouldn't clog your pores. But the word occlusive by definition means that it's designed to cap or clog. It's designed to occlude, in other words, protect things that are inside versus things that are outside. So dimethicone would be considered an occlusive product. It could be something that could clog your pores, but not because the molecular structure of it is weighted. Can you see how comedogenicity might just not be the ideal environment or word? And really challenging to look up formulas and figure out what their comedogenic rating is if it's pre-formulated. You either get the manufacturer saying, most likely if they're going to say anything at all, they're going to tell you that it's going to be non-comedogenic or it's not going to clog pores. If it's been tested by a lab for comedogenicity, that's even one step further. That's great. But unless they're willing to give you that study or make sure that you understand it, that may not be something that you have access to. So how do you sort all of this out if you're trying to buy a product and you're worried about how likely it is that that product will congest your pores? I have 2 suggestions for you. One is, if you're just bringing one new product into the list, just make that one change. Don't make multiple changes at the same time. If you can make that one change, then you can understand how that ingredient is interacting with your current routine and with your current lifestyle and what's happening. So that's number 1. If you just bought a new skincare routine and you're so excited about using all 5 products, awesome. Have at it, go for all 5 of them. But if you do run into problems, you're not gonna have any idea which of those 5 is causing that problem. So you can back one out individually each way. If you're currently having problems with your current skincare list, I would do it that way. I would just back off the products one at a time so you understand whether or not that problem is being solved by the removing of that one particular substance. Now, which one do you decide that you're gonna back off? This is where I would take the ingredient deck and I would look at the first 5 or 6 ingredients and I would understand what is in those first 5 or 6 ingredients. And unfortunately, if you wear makeup, you're probably gonna have to do this with your makeup too, because there's no way to know. Like, make sure you have clean brushes, make sure you have clean sponges, make sure that all of the way that you're using the products is clean. You're not sticking your fingers in the jar over and over and over again with your hands unwashed. That can cause the jar to grow bacteria, which you're then putting on your skin, which could be the cause of the problem. It has absolutely nothing to do with whether or not the ingredients in the makeup themselves could be causing pores to clog. It might be the way that you're using it. So there is so much detective work that needs to be done to really truly understand what's happening with your skin. And I really recommend, if you are dealing with congestion and acne, go talk to a professional, let them guide you through it. However, all of that said, if you really want to find out whether or not your products are going to be good for you or bad for you, I would take that first 5 or 6 ingredients. That's going to be a majority, or at least 80% of what's in the bottle is going to be those first few. And then I would look up those individually. And don't be fooled by just the comedogenicity rating. So I want you to look for things that are occlusive or non-occlusive. I do have a skincare consult in my practice. If somebody is dealing with these problems and they really want their current routine to get optimized, please feel free to make an appointment. Those can be done virtually or in person in the spa, and I'm just looking at every label and ingredient and I'm doing the work for you. That said, if you want to do the work yourself, just go through all of your ingredient decks, figure out what is most likely to be causing a problem. Another thing is, if it's your forehead that you're having problems with, you're going to want to look at your hair care products too. You're going to want to look at what you're sleeping in. If you're using any sort of special hair mask or hair oil at night, you're going to want to look at all of that too, because the likeliness of it moving from your hair down onto your forehead is very likely. So there are lots of things that go into whether or not a product will cause congestion in the skin. There's a lot that goes into congestion in general, but for those of you curious about comedogenicity, about the rating of certain ingredients, and about the best way to figure out whether or not your products are causing clogs in the pores, those are going to be my suggestions for you.